Afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining the Protective Garments for Manufacturing of EV battery session. My name is Jim Foreman from Avantor, and I'm the product manager. Today, welcomed by Steve Monarch from DuPont and John Doyle from DuPont as well, who are going to run through the presentation. Just to be warned, we have had a couple of technical difficulties earlier on, just as we were preparing, so please bear with us. From an admin perspective, please feel free to use the chat option for any questions as we move through the presentation, and we'll allow some time towards the end of the presentation to cover those questions off. So welcome, and Steve, if I can hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jim. So warm welcome from our side as well. As Jim said, for technical reasons, we are unable to share our camera, so our apologies for that one. So let's get started straight away with the main topic, and that would be the chemical protective garments for the manufacturing of EV batteries. Next slide, please. So, of course, we are looking forward to share information with you, but please do not copy any of our slides. Thank you. And then the next slide, please. As you all know, the electrical vehicle industry is growing extremely fast. So this is an industry that is just in its infancy, and as all of these startup industries, they come with all types of challenges. So the production, the manufacturing of EV batteries can come with their unique set of challenges, and every production process, every company is basically different. So there is no standardization yet for the PPE that's happened in that industry. And this is why we would like to focus today's presentation on how we at DuPont and at Avantor can help you in selecting the right garments when it comes to that industry that will provide you the protection for your operators and your batteries that you need. So let's start with the identification of the hazards that are present in the EV battery manufacturing. Next slide, please, Simona. Hope so. Slide 7, that is, and now we're on slide 8. So when we are looking at the EV battery manufacturing, we need a dual role from the protective garments the operators are wearing. On the one hand, we need to protect the workers from getting contaminated with hazardous chemicals, whether they are dust or liquids that they are handling during the process. And at the same time, we need to protect the batteries from any contamination that may affect negatively its performances. So here the garments play a critical role as well. But let's first focus on the protection of the workers. We are now on slide 9, and there we are showing the selector guide that we have developed at DuPont to help HSE specialists in their process of identifying the right chemical protective garments. In the first step, you need to have a look at all the hazardous chemicals that you're handling in your process. You need to find out whether, if you could advance one slide, Simona, now I can see your screen, so perfect. So when you look at the different, please stay on slide 9, Simona. So one up. One back, please. Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. So first we need to look at the different chemicals that you are handling, how dangerous they can be. Are they dusts? Are they liquids? Are they maybe liquids that you're heating up that are emitting vapors? Are they corrosive? Are maybe two chemicals mixed together and they become something else? All these elements you need to find out on the hazards that you're facing chemically wise, but also in the process, how you're handling them. And a lot of this information, if you are buying these chemicals from somebody else, a lot of this information you will be finding them on your material safety data sheets your suppliers will give you. In the second step, you need to look at the different workplaces where your operators may risk getting exposed to these hazardous chemicals. So you are looking at your process and to what level of risk they are exposed to. Is it just a laboratory worker who is sampling some new material in very small quantities? It's obvious they need less of a protection than a maintenance worker that needs to intervene because the machine that is producing the slurry got stuck or damaged and he's getting massively exposed to the slurry that you're producing. In the third step, you need to understand how the chemicals can be of a danger for your workers. And this is sometimes of a tricky issue when it comes to educating your workforce, because not a lot of chemicals are corrosive and they are hurting when they touch the skin of your operators. And yet they may be toxic, they may be mutagenic, carcinogenic, etc. And you need to educate your people that they should try to avoid getting any skin contact, whether it is with their hands or with their body, with these chemicals, because they might be going through the skin and enter the body and lead to long adverse health effects. I just see a message from Simona. Can you hear me? Is with the technical issues we are having?
Yes, I can hear you, Steve.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So you need to assess the way how the chemicals are entering your body and educate your people accordingly to make them really sensitive to the right level of chemical protective garments they are wearing. And in the fourth step, you need to determine what are the protection requirements, both from the material out of which your garment are being made, but also the design of the garments play an important role. You need to assess if the particles or the liquids are not going through the material out of which the garments are being made. But you also need to look at the seams construction, for example, or the garment design to make sure that there's a tightness around the gloves and the cuffs, for example, or the respirator and the hood. If the design is not, of the coverall is not fitting the design of your other PPE, you may have an issue. And in the fifth step, you also need to make sure that given the different work conditions that you're facing, that the garments are mechanically strong enough while the duties are being performed. Now, for the laboratory worker, there's not hardly any risk that the garment may get torn, but for the maintenance worker that needs to intervene on the slurry machine, well, there's a risk that he may tear or damage the garment, and that will lead to contamination. And the sixth step, comfort, is only coming at the sixth step. Why? Because comfort can never be at the expense of safety. So we strongly recommend that you follow the guide also in this sequence. So when you first have gone through the 5 steps, at the 6th step, you are now in a position to have all the information you need to decide between 2 coveralls that are offering the protection that you need, but one may be more comfortable than the other. And here you can then take comfort into consideration. The 7th step is equally important when it comes for PPE. It is important that you source your PPE from a supplier and a distributor and a manufacturer that are able to provide you also the technical expertise to help to get all the questions answered that you may be having. Anybody can buy anything all over the internet these days, but you just get a product and you get zero support. The slides have just disappeared. My colleague John, can you still see the slides or not?
No, Steve, they've disappeared. I think Simona might be trying to reconnect.
All right, okay. Dear audience, with the technical issues, unfortunately, they keep on plaguing us. We have lost our presenter. Maybe I can share my screen, sharing my screen. Maybe it is working now. John, can you see my screen?
Not yet, Steve.
All right. I'm afraid we have to wait until our host is back.
Steve, that's come through to me. I can see slide 9, Stu.
You can see slide 9. Oh, perfect.
I can see slide 9 now. So proceed and I'll let you know if it goes.
Excellent. Thanks a
now
lot,
through
Jim.
to me, Steve, as well. Yep.
Oh, Oh, this is a challenging session, I'm very afraid, and our apologies from that side. So it's important to buy the PPE from a manufacturer that is able to provide you the quantities that you need when you need them and give you all the technical support as well. Very important is step 8. Whenever you're starting up a new process, you have operators in new environment, and maybe they came from a different industry. It is really important that you train them on the correct usage, that is the donning and the doffing of the coveralls, but this is valid for every PPE that you are choosing. Your operators must really know how to use them correctly, and if they get contaminated, take them off without getting contaminated. We do provide training on that aspect and have videos and on-site support we can offer there as well. And then last but not least, in the 9th step, always important to have a wear trial, whether it is gloves, goggles, or garments, it doesn't matter. It's important that you can assess in a safe environment the performance of the garments before you're bringing them to an environment where they may get contaminated. So that's in a nutshell our 9-step guide. It's just a short version of it. We have a longer version that is available in our electronic catalog that Avanto is more than happy to share with you. Now we'll move to the next slide, which is slide number 10, to give you an explanation how exactly chemicals may contaminate the workers that are handling the chemicals. Simona, if you can advance the slides to slide number 10, please, or straight to slide number 11. Simona, I do not see your slide moving. On which slide are we now, John or Jim?
Still on 9, Steve.
Okay. Simona, can you please advance 2 slides, please, to slide 11? Okay.
I seem to have problems, Steve, unless you want to take over control of the presentation again.
Yeah, I was about to suggest that, so let me try that. There seems to be further issues. Please let me know if my slide is coming through.
Yeah, see slide 10, Steve.
Perfect. Okay, well, let's continue. So there are 2 ways how chemicals can be going through the protective garments the operators are wearing. That's penetration and permeation. And this is not only valid for the material out of which the garments are being made, but also for the seams that are being used for making the garments. There are different ways of how you can stitch a chemical protective garment together. The tightest one is the stitched and over-taped seam, because you have a layer of protective barrier film that is really sealing off the stitching that you have. A welded seam or bound and stitched seam, they are not as tight as a stitched and over-taped seam. Now, what's the difference between penetration and permeation? Well, penetration is happening for liquid, solid, and gas chemicals. And it's a physical process where the chemical is going through the openings or the pores in your material. Whenever the particle, whenever the droplet, whenever the molecule is smaller than the pore in the material, it risks going through. It's basically a filtering process. And this will be happening with materials that do have an open structure. You see here an example of 2 different types of materials. On the left-hand side, you have a non-woven material, the Tyvek that we produce as DuPont, which is much, much tighter, has a much smaller pore size than a woven clean room polyester, reusable polyester clean room garment fabric. Now, this may be monofilament, it may be a very, very tightly woven material, but fact is, at every intersection between the weft and warp, you have here in red circles very small holes, which can be between 5 and 6 micron. Now, having a pore size of 5 to 6 micron means that any particle smaller than 5 micron will be going through. A nonwoven such as Tyvek has a barrier for any particle bigger than 1 micron not going through. That's because the pore size is significantly smaller. And you can imagine that a stitched seam where a sewing needle is going through the material is leaving much bigger holes even. So that's why a stitched seam and a bound seam is letting more particles or droplets go through than another type of seam. Now we have a little video here to show you what can happen if your pore size is bigger than your hazard. So here the example of 2 different materials used for making single-use chemical protective garments, namely SMS material and our Tyvek material. The SMS and the Tyvek material are both used for making type 5 and 6 coveralls. So we put some paper, we put the filter on top, and then we put the material, once Tyvek and once SMS that we are testing, and then we are pouring some carbon fibers, so carbon black fibers on top, and then we are gently shaking them in an orbital shaker machine. So we're not really rubbing them, there's not really any pressure at all, but when you're taking it off, you are seeing that while nothing is going through Tyvek, through the SMS, you have some black stains going through. So that's the difference you're getting from an open pore material to a material that is much tighter like Tyvek. Now for the seams as well, there's a difference. And here we have another very short video to raise the fact how sensitive the seams can be when it comes to protection. We have always Tyvek here, but 3 different types of seams: taped seam, bound seam, and a normally stitched or serged seam. We're starting with the over-taped seam. We put some chalk on the outside and then try to blow it with an air blower through the material. And even though the resolution may be not the greatest one, believe me, there's strictly nothing going through. Now, if we take a bound seam, which is a typical clean room seam, you see that little bit of the chalk is going through. Not a lot, but a little bit is going through. And if you take a normally stitched seam or serged seam, you see that significant amount of dust is going through. So the evidence that when you're assessing the performance of your chemical protective garments also places a lot of attention on the seam constructions for the garments that you are consider using. Another test you can assess is the type 5 cabin test for chemical protective garments. Now this is a cabin test method that is evaluating the performance of an entire garment while it is worn by an operator. It is done in a test cabin that is floated with salt particles having a diameter of 0.6 micron. The operator is wearing the garment that you want to test with gloves, with a full face mask and with boots. And then you are measuring the number of particles that are going through the garment, and you're calculating the total average leakage inside the garment, which you can do because you know the concentration of your salt particles inside the cabin. Now the test is done with 10 different garments. Each garment is tested during 9 minutes. During the first 3 minutes, the person is standing. During the next 3 minutes, walking on the spot while raising and lowering the arms, and during the last 3 minutes doing squats. And out of all these data points, you calculate the total average inward leakage, and as long as you have less than 15%, you pass the type 5 CE certification for chemical protective garments protecting against airborne particles. And here you see an overview of the different garments we have at DuPont. You see that our Tyvek 400 Dual has 5%, and our Tyvek 600 Plus with SOx has 0.2%, while our Tyvek 500 Expert has only 1%. Now the difference lies again in the design. Our Tyvek 600 Plus has stitched and over-taped seams, whereas our Tyvek 500 Expert has only stitched seams, and our Tyvek 400 Dual has Tyvek in the front and SMS material in the back. So this test allows us to show you that also the design and the materials used play a big role when it comes to protection against the penetration of solid particles. The other way how chemicals can be going through your garments is permeation. Now permeation is only happening with liquids and with gases. It will never happen with the solid particles. Solid particles always go through penetration through the garment. Permeation is a molecular process where the chemicals are going through the materials. If the chemical hazard has the same polarity than the polymer out of which your garment is being made. If, for example, that's the case, then the chemical hazards in red will go through the materials without damaging it, without creating any holes. It is as if the material would almost open up a door and let the particles go through. It is not damaging or destroying the material, and that makes it very tricky because you do not see it. You do not see it going through. It also a process that can never be reversed. Once your material starts permeating, once your chemical starts permeating through your material, even if you're not wearing the garment, sooner or later it will go through. By the way, it's exactly the same when it comes to chemical protective gloves. It is important when you have a chemically contaminated coverall or glove that you're throwing it away. Don't keep it for the next day because there's a risk you get contaminated the next day when the workers are wearing the gloves or the garment again. And the only type of seams which is protecting against permeation are stitched and over-taped seams or welded seams that are over-taped. These are the only two types of seams that do offer protection against the permeation. And the permeation is also assessed in the CE certification for chemical protective garments for type 4, 3, 2, and 1 with a so-called permeation test cell. I notice that I'm running out of time a little bit, so I will not go into the detail. The most important thing, however, is how you're going to assess the test data you get out of it. What is being measured in the permeation test cell is the permeation rate, which is the quantity of chemical hazards in microgram permeating through 1 square meter of the material that is used for making the garment per minute. So you get a very, very detailed test result that you can use when you're doing your risk assessment. Here you see some examples of the permeation test data that we have measured for some chemicals that are being used in the EV battery manufacturing. And you see that all of these liquid chemicals require materials such as our Tychem 6000F that offers protection at the European standardized breakthrough time of permeation rate of 1 microgram per centimeter square per minute during more than 8 hours. In other words, even if the garment is contaminated, after 8 hours, you still have not reached a permeation rate of 1 microgram per centimeter square per minute. So this is a good indication you're getting when it comes to selecting protective material garments against liquid or gas chemicals you're handling. The second element that we need to consider is, of course, we need to make sure that your batteries do not get contaminated by the operators while they are working, because any contamination can lead to a defect which in the end may result in your batteries malfunctioning or, in the worst cases, even catch fire while they are being used. You must be aware that when it comes to risk of contamination for your batteries and equipment, the operators that are working in your factory represent the highest source of contamination. Scientific studies have demonstrated that 75% of all the contamination inside a clean room, or a dry room if you want, are coming from the operators inside. Now, the logical conclusion would be take out the operators, get rid of the problem. Well, unfortunately, in your environment, in the EV battery manufacturing, that's not possible. In other industries, like the chip manufacturing, it is possible to fully automate it, but this is a different kind of industry looking at here today. So we must make sure that all the particles, all the skin flakes the operators are shedding, do not contaminate your environment and your batteries. And in order to assess the performance of the garments that you consider using, there are some scientific tests that allow you to evaluate what is the risk of contamination when the garments are being used. And the first one I want to show you is the particle filtration efficiency, which is a test method that is measuring how much of the skin flakes that your operator is shedding will be filtered out, meaning staying inside the garment and not go through your garment, risking contaminating your work environment. So this test method here is working with sodium chloride, having a particle size of 0.3 micron. Now this is assuming the worst case scenario, because 0.3 is the smallest size a skin flake that a human being can be shedding. And with that, you see that our Tyvek IsoClean clean room garment fabric has a particle filtration efficiency of 67%. When it comes to the particle filtration, it's about penetration again. So the bigger the particle, the easier it is to filter it out. While for Tyvek IsoClean of 0.3 with 0.3 micron particles, we have filtration efficiency of 67%. For 1 micron particles, we have 100%. Of course, you must also consider microbial contamination, because the skin flakes, sometimes they are carrying some microorganisms on them, and these represent a viable source of contamination in your clean room. So here it's also good to assess the bacterial filtration efficiency of the garments that you consider using in your dry rooms. And here a good test method is the ASTM F2101, because it is using as a bacteria Staphylococcus, which is the most common family of bacteria living on our skin, even when we are perfectly in good health. And here as well, you see when it comes to our Tyvek materials, whether it is our Tyvek IsoClean clean and sterile, or clean processed garments, or even our normal Tyvek garments, we have a bacterial filtration efficiency of over 98.5%. Of course, the garments themselves should not be a source of contamination, because also the fibers your clothing may be shedding while they are being worn by operators may represent a source of contamination that can lead to product defects. And here a standardized test method is the Hanke drum test. Here you see a picture of our Hanke drum that we have at DuPont. How this is working is, it is a stainless steel drum. You put the garments you want to test inside, and then you are gently tumbling them, and the particle counter inside the drum is counting the particles that may be generated. You see some examples of Hanke drum test results in the upper right corner, and you see that whether it is a Tyvek IsoClean clean room garment or a clean and brand new reusable clean room garment, they all behave with the best possible result, which is a category 1, meaning less than 2000 particles of 0.3 micron per minute, or less than 1200.5 particles per minute. What is not working is you take an industrial Tyvek coverall, which is not properly designed for clean rooms. For the high classes of clean rooms like our Tyvek Classic, which is called today Tyvek 500 Expert, you see that this garment is shedding more particles than a properly designed clean room garment. It has only a category 2 and sheds significantly more particles. So the conclusion out of this is not every white coverall is the same. They are properly designed cleanroom garments, and you have what I call an industrial chemical protective garment, which may offer you the right chemical protection that you need, but that may be bringing too many particles for your work environment. It is always good if the manufacturer, like we at DuPont, is able to provide you a certificate of compliance with the Helmke drum test report for every batch of garment you are buying. With every product of Tyvek IsoClean clean garments that we are selling at DuPont, you will be getting from Avantor with the box a certificate of compliance testifying, stating that the Helmke drum means the category 1. Now, what are the different types of garment solution that are available for EV battery manufacturing? And here I would like to share with you a couple of garments that are being used already at some EV battery manufacturer, and also explain you why these garments are particularly well suited for these environments. Here you have a little matrix for the lithium-ion battery manufacturing. You see different types of garments, and whenever we put a blue dot, this would be the optimal protection we recommend at DuPont for the different manufacturing. Now, if you look, for example, at the electrode slurry preparation, the mixing, you can use most of the garments, but there's not really a need to wear our Tyvek IsoClean cleanroom garments because you are not in a cleanroom environment yet. But for the cell assembly, you are in a dry room, you are in a clean room setting, and here our Tyvek IsoClean, as well as the other garments, may be the optimal solution. Which are now the garments that would be suitable for ISO 6 to ISO 9 clean rooms or dry rooms? Here we have different types of garments, and the first one I would like to highlight is our Tyvek 400 Dual TG, which was specifically designed for the EV battery industry. We developed it when one of our customers approached us and was complaining that they had an issue with very, very irritant solid powder that was entering in between the gloves and the cuffs of the coverall and leading to irritation on the skin of the workers. So they asked us to really design a garment that is solving this issue. And we came up with this garment here, which is has as a distinguishing feature integrated Tyvek gloves. So these are undergloves made out of Tyvek, which is a breathable material, giving good comfort, giving excellent particle protection. And we have stitched and over-taped these gloves onto the cuffs of the coverall. In other words, there's no more risk that the particles are going in between any openings or connections and risk contaminate the skin of the worker. They can wear any type of mechanical protective gloves on top for additional protection. The coverall has also attached Tyvek socks. Socks means that you are using the coverall to go in your safety shoes or safety boots. So these may still be contaminated, but the feet of the workers stay protected. It also comes with stitch over seams in the upper part of the body, as well as a chin flap and adhesive tape on the zipper flap and the Tyvek zipper for optimal protection. Now this is a CE certified category 3, type 5 protection against solid particles, and type 6 limited protection against liquid chemicals, and it is also anti-static on both sides. In the back, the garment has a breathable SMS panel, which is more breathable, but offering a lower barrier than in the front. So this would be the right solution if the direction of your exposure is only in the front, not all around the body, including the back. For these cases where you need to have a Tyvek protection all around, we have our Tyvek 500 Labo. It does not have integrated Tyvek gloves, but it does have integrated overshoes with an anti-slip sole. In other words, with this coverall here, you're also able to protect your shoes from getting contaminated. So you go with your shoes inside the coverall and the attached overshoes. Now this is also a type 5 and type 6 coverall is also anti-static, but you see that there are differences in the design. So depending on your work requirements, one or the other solution may be more suited. If you do have an issue with extremely fine dust particles that your operators may get contaminated, we strongly recommend that you also have a look at our Tyvek 600 Plus. Now this is a type 4 coverall, so protecting on top of it against aerosols. But what would be most interesting for you is probably the stitched and over taped seams here in blue, because by that you're really sealing the seams. Remember the video I showed at the beginning where we were blowing dust through the material? Well, this garment has this type of seam. It's the tightest possible seam you can get. We have also covered all the elastics in Tyvek to make sure that there are no particles that may be trapped by the sewing thread that is needed for stitching the elastics onto the hood, the boot, and the cuffs, for example. This model is also available with attached socks, but also without attached socks. So here you have the option of either protecting the feet as well, or if you don't need that, you can take the model without attached socks, which is a little bit less expensive. A garment that is widely used in the EV battery manufacturing process is our Tyvek 500 Expert. Now, this is a Tyvek coverall with normally stitched seams, offering good protection and offering also the low linting properties. And I forgot to mention that before. All of our Tyvek garments that I've sewn so far, they are industrial chemical protective garments, but because they are Tyvek, they have very low linting properties, which make them suitable for the ISO 7 to ISO 9 clean rooms or dry rooms. Now, the Tyvek 500 Expert is a very versatile garment thanks to its design and its product features. It's also available in 3 different colors, white, blue, and green. If you want to have some color coding to distinguish the different areas of your manufacturing process, well, consider using an option of different colors. The garments have the same performance, they just have a different color, so you can know whenever an operator is entering a production area where they should not be entering, in case you want to avoid cross-contamination issues. If you're handling liquids under pressure, if you need to do some high water pressure cleaning, we have our Tyvek 800J. This is a Tyvek material with a breathable film laminated on top, which allows us to offer the type 3 level of chemical protection, meaning liquids under pressure. Now, it has the same permeation protection against liquid and gas chemicals than our normal Tyvek garment. The added feature you have here is that you can use it when you're cleaning with high water pressure different parts of your manufacturing process or your tanks. It will give additional comfort to your worker compared to other liquid tight garments that I'm going to show you afterwards. And do not neglect the partial body elements, whether it is shoe covers or boot covers, hairnets, bouffants, lab coats for your visitors, etc. Often people are just using a cheap polyprop non-woven material made garments for these type of applications. But don't forget that polypropylene is issuing a lot of particles, so they may represent a source of linting in your environment. If you take Tyvek 500 accessories made out of our Tyvek materials, you have much lower linting materials, and on top of it, in case you really need it, you also have a chemical protection category 3 type 6 partial body protection. So if you want to have more information on sleeves, boot covers, etc., do not hesitate to reach out to your Avantor sales reps. When it comes to highly concentrated chemical hazards, we have our TyChem range of products. And for the chemicals that are very highly concentrated chemicals used in EV battery, our experience has shown us that our TyChem 6000F material is the most suited one, because it's offering an excellent barrier against the permeation of these chemicals you're handling in your industry. And here also we have different types of designs. We have the safest design with our Tycam 6000F face seal. Why do I say it's the safest? Because there is no zipper in the front. There's a zipper in the back to get into the garment. It has a rubber face seal that is fitting perfectly well around a full face mask with a filter. It has integrated chemical protective undergloves and integrated dissipative socks so that they can also be worn in X zones if worn with the appropriate ESD chemical protective boots or ESD shoes. Now this garment is the safest by design and is the right solution in case you do have a leakage of chemicals, if you do have a breach and your operators need to fix the leakages and they will get massively contaminated. This would be the right design for these type of applications. But for your normal maintenance workers where the risk of getting contaminated with highly concentrated organic chemicals is relatively low, we have our Tycam 6000F Plus. It's the same type of material, but a different design. So here you have a double zipper flap offering perfect tightness, and it comes with a double cuff as well, and in different options. And this is a garment that can be reused if it is not contaminated nor damaged. For example, if your maintenance worker is checking your equipment and it turns out there was absolutely no contamination, well, it would be a shame to throw the garment away. This garment here can be reused for these purposes. It comes, as I said, with different options, either as a standard coverall without attached gloves and without attached socks, but it also comes as an option with only attached chemical protective gloves, a second option with only attached dissipative socks, and a third option having both the socks and the gloves attached. Also, when it comes to partial body protection, whether it is for spill kits in your laboratories or for your R&D work, working on the next ingredients for your EV batteries, we have also Tycam 6000F partial body protection, like a sleeved apron, an apron, sleeves, and overboots with an anti-slip sole. If you're handling only inorganic chemicals, you may also consider our Tycam 2000C accessories, exactly the same design, but only a different material. All of these partial body protection elements are CE certified category 3 chemical protective clothing, type 3 partial body protection. Here just a zoom onto the gown, because this is by far the most widely sold partial body protection we have. So you see the opening is in the back with a hook and loop fastener and a belt, a tie that allows you to fix it. It is going from your neck right down to your calves, so offering a full protection even if your operator is sitting on a chair. And it comes with a double cuff system, which is ideal if you're wearing double gloving, meaning a thin underglove and then a heavier chemical glove on top. For the ISO 4 to ISO 5 clean rooms, the level of cleanliness is so high that you need to have a properly designed clean room garment. And here at DuPont, we have 3 different ranges of Tyvek ISO clean products, whether they are non-sterile, sterile only, or clean and sterile. Now, for your environment, probably the most interesting one is the clean and sterile range, because it has been washed in a clean room laundry and is therefore extremely low linting, meeting Helmke-Drum category 1, making it suitable for ISO 4-5 clean rooms. Here are some examples of the designs of these garments. We have, for example, a coverall with an integrated hood and integrated shoe covers with an anti-slip sole, which is our Tyvek ISOClean IC193 model. This is also CE certified as a chemical protective garment, type 5 and type 6, after the washing and after the sterilization, meaning that this coverall is not only a clean room garment, it is also a chemically protective clean room garment. In case you have a risk that your workers may get exposed to small amounts of chemical hazards in your dry rooms or your clean rooms of ISO 5. Here, the garment would be this garment would be the right choice, just like the other garment. We have the IC 183, same type of clean room garment with bound seams as well, but this is a 3-piece system. So this is a coverall without an integrated hood and without an integrated socks, which is a different gowning procedure. So this one is easier to wear than to the IC 193. But it needs a separate hood and it needs a separate pair of overboots. And for that, we have our Tyvek ISO Clean and process accessories, whether it is a sleeve, whether it is boot cover with an anti-slip sole, whether it is 2 types of hoods, a bouffant cap or a lab coat. And when it comes to the hoods, my favorite is this one here, the Tyvek ISO Clean IC689 hood, because it has an integrated clean room mask. So you have no longer the risk when your operator is turning the head that part of the face may be exposed where the clean room mask is sitting and the hood maybe not turning with correctly. So this is a good solution for reducing the particle shedding inside your clean rooms with the hood as well. Of course, sustainability is very, very important for your industry as well. For us at DuPont as well, sustainability is extremely important. Please be informed that all of our Tyvek facilities globally are sourcing 100% of our electricity from renewable energy credits, and that the polymer that we are using is coming from renewable or recycled sources through mass balance approach. We have certified sustainability according to ISCC Plus, EcoVadis Silver, and are recognized by CDP as an A-list candidate, because we have already achieved our 35% reduction of scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gases in 2019, surpassing our own goals by over 8 years. And on top of it, our industrial Tyvek and Tycam coveralls packaging contains post-consumer recycled content as well. Now, where can you find more information? Of course, you can contact your Avantor sales rep, who will be more than happy to help you. But we are at DuPont, we have also some tools like our online selector tool, where you can find a lot of information on the product, but where you can also look up the permeation data for the liquid or the gas chemicals you may be handling. So this website, you see it here, you see it also as a QR code, and we have it also as an app for the App Store or for the Google Play Store. If you want to install it on your mobile phones, this is possible as well. Of course, both services are absolutely free of charge. Now, this is the end of our presentation. We will now open the floor for some questions. And again, our deepest apologies for the technical issues we have faced today. John, any questions that you may have noticed or received?
Yes, Steve, some questions have come through, but just let the participants know that we still have time to take some questions, so please get them in there. The first question I have is, do you recommend using additional tape to seal the connections between gloves and coveralls?
Good question. Absolutely. So whenever you are facing chemical hazards, never forget that the connections between your gloves and your coverall, or your full face mask and your coverall, is a risk where chemicals can ingress into the coverall and contaminate the worker. So if you have environments where you get massively contaminated, we strongly recommend that you use taping for sealing the gloves and the full face mask onto your coverall, or use a garment that is designed to be inherently tighter, like our Tyvek 400 Dual TG with attached Tyvek gloves, or our Tycam 6000F coveralls with attached gloves and attached socks, which would lower the need for taping. And never forget the seams as well. So also look at the seams that you're considering on your garment. As I said before, a over-taped seam is much tighter than a normally stitched seam.
Thanks, Steve. Next question we have is, we use multi-hazard workwear that is also certified as chemical protective garments. Can we use these as well in EV battery manufacturing?
No, unfortunately not, because even if they are the multi-hazard garments, workwear garments, they are typically CE certified as high-vis, flame retardant, and they only meet the chemical protection of a type 6, which is the lowest level of type. Basically, it's just offering low protection against droplets of chemical hazards. It's not offering any protection against dust particles. And in your industry, it's really the dust particles that are the biggest issue. Dust particles always go through a woven material. Woven materials like in multi-hazard workwear or also reusable clean room garments is going straight through. These, even if they have a coating on top, they will never have the dust protection that you need in the environments.
Thanks, Steve. The next question says, we use penetration data in our risk assessments. Should we also use permeation data?
If you are using also liquid or gas chemicals, yes, then you should also look at the permeation data. Because when it comes to the liquid penetration data, the test that is being used is only lasting 1 minute. And the maximum amount of chemical that is being tested is 10 milliliters, 2 coffee spoons. That's all it is. And I've never seen in the over 20 years where I've been working in this business here, I've never seen any application where the duration was only 1 minute and where the maximum contamination was 2 coffee spoons. So this test is not giving you enough data you need for your risk assessment. So again, for liquid and for gas chemicals, we strongly recommend that you look the permeation data.
Thanks, Steve. And a linked question there is, do DuPont have a database of chemical permeation results, and where can this be found?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have tested over 1,000 different chemicals on permeation in different concentrations, and they can all be found on our SafeSpec internet and on our SafeSpec application that I've shown at the end of my presentation. And you will find all the data points as well, actual breakthrough time, the standardized breakthrough time of 1 microgram per centimeter square per minute here in Europe, and also the 0.1 microgram per centimeter square per minute permeation standard used in the USA.
Thank you. The next is a comment rather than a question. Excellent informative presentation with lots of technical suggestions to follow up. So thank you and well done, Steve.
More than welcome. Thank you very much.
We still have a couple of minutes if there's any more questions out there, and that is it with the questions we have online at the moment. So if there's anyone with a question, please ask it now. I don't see anything coming through. I think we could start to wrap up, Simona.
If Simona is there, otherwise, Andrea, maybe you can do the wrap up.
Simona, are you there? Okay, so I will take over. Thank you very much for your audience that you have joined our webinar today. After the webinar, recording access will send via email to every delegate. And if you want to join with your colleagues or again the webinar, you can also record on our website under webinars. We also sent out a survey that where you can put your thinkings or you can value the webinar, and also you receive a certificate of attendance. So that's all from our side, from Avantor, and yeah, thank again for having joined this webinar, and thank a lot for the colleagues at DuPont for the presentation.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.